Hello, my name is Michael Gross and I'll be taking you through Project 2.6, Regional Climate Change Projections, Science and Delivery. The lead chief investigator is myself, Michael Gross, but deputy was Rob Coleman and before that Joe Brown from the Bureau of Meteorology. We involved CSIRO, Bureau of Meteorology and the University of New South Wales, and our project links to all of the climate challenges of the hub. The main goals, overarching goals of the project were to maintain and enhance the delivery of the national climate projections to all the sector areas. And the graphic on the right just shows the opening page to the Climate Change in Australia website released in 2015. And the other main goal was to conduct underpinning science to make those projections more scientifically credible and salient to a range of stakeholders. I'll be going through some highlights both in the science and engagements side of the project. Firstly, looking at engagement, we conducted many different activities, including training, delivering of data and information via the website and tailored information directly, giving webinars, face-to-face briefings, trainings and so on, and also through contributions to and leverage with projects that are linked to this project, including for the Victorian and New South Wales state governments, also for Hydro Tasmania, the national energy sector, and many others. You can see some of the stats on the screen there. Some of our communication products released through the Hub website include Australia's Changing Climate brochure, and we're a big contributor to the State of the Climate 2018, released late last year, and 3 Hub brochures with another one on the way. And these cover topics of Southern Australian rainfall, Northern Australian rainfall, conceiving of climate change and variability out to 2030, we're interested in that time frame, and one on the way called Planning for Future Climates, moving from uncertainty to risk management framing, which will hopefully be a really practical guide to really using projections in a practical way. Going through some of the highlights from the research, first looking at Northern Australian rainfall. Significant changes in rainfall are possible through the century, and there's a big range of those possibilities from quite a lot wetter to quite a lot drier. So knowing that changes are possible is one thing, but it'd be more handy to know which direction it's going to go. So some research into this found that what happens to the monsoons is key, of course, and they respond to the pattern of warming over the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean. And there's some evidence that the dry end of this projection is perhaps less plausible because it relies on an ocean warming pattern that looks a little bit less physically plausible, and some of those models are perhaps not simulating something as realistic as the others. They also respond to aerosol, including the Asian aerosol cloud from the north of Australia, and the role of the aerosol in changes to a Northern Australian rainfall was an ongoing research question. Another study found that the increase in the variability of rainfall was perhaps more certain than the change in average. So that's real information people can use even while we're trying to work out exactly what is more likely in terms of the change in the average. And there's several high-level papers as well as the brochure covering some of that content. Having a look at the Southern Australian rainfall research during this project, we had a strong focus on the atmospheric drivers of atmospheric circulation drivers of rainfall. So these are the factors that lead to changes in the weather systems and how much rain they bring to Southern Australia. And this is the key thing that drives changes to rainfall with climate change. We confirmed that ongoing drying with a particular regional and seasonal signature across the region is projected. An assessment of the circulation drivers and how they're represented in models suggests that perhaps we can even be more confident in that drying range. You can see the box plots here in the bottom of the complete range and the range that we think is more plausible, cutting out that area of no change in the winter, represented by July, and also some of these more extreme projections for January, perhaps less plausible for Southern Australia. We also had the Southern Australian brochure, which includes this graphic, which is showing how we're tracking to the rainfall projections presented in climate change in Australia. And you can see we're already tracking at the very dry end, possibly even drier than the dry end for Murray Basin and southwest Western Australia in winter. But of course, we do expect variability to come into play. But it does confirm that those projections are definitely not extreme. Another science highlight is in the area of regional climate modelling, where we supported and helped evaluate the new set of CORDEX. This is the Coordinated Regional Downscaling Experiment simulations. and this has helped coordinate the downscaling effort and the people doing it. We had a study looking at the added value, that's the new and plausible detail added by going to high resolution. And one particular finding was about enhanced drying on the slopes of mountains once they start to become resolved in higher resolution models compared to the lower resolution models used as input. And this was consistent in all of the mid-latitude regions around the world and is relevant to the Australian Alps. And we also have another study quantifying where this added value is and when it is, both in the simulation of the current climate and projected change in the future, using indices so that it can be easily understood and seen where that high resolution is giving you value. And there's some of the scientific studies there listed at the bottom. Another highlight is in the area of climate sensitivity, their feedbacks, climate feedbacks, and also then temperature projections. So climate sensitivity is a key uncertainty in making projections of the future climate, and still quite a broad range of possibilities are seen as plausible. If we knew it better, it would reduce the range of temperature projections by a factor of 3. And you can see here how temperature projections really do expand out and widen out the further we go. With some research work listed here at the bottom in these papers shows that the relationship between the decadal change and climate change could possibly give us some hints towards which range of temperature change and sensitivity is more plausible, although this needs further work. And we were able to better understand the sensitivity in Australia's access climate model and what was the cause of it, and found that it wasn't just an artifact due to tuning of the model, so that was reassuring. We had a study looking at how the equilibrium climate sensitivity index actually correlates better with 21st century change in temperature than the transient climate response index. And this was unexpected and needs further work to understand why, but it does indicate that that index is more useful in the meantime. And another study looked at temperature projections made back in 1990, 1992 from the first assessment report of IPCC and from CSIRO, how they're tracking toward observations in the meantime. And they're really quite good. They were a reliable source of guidance about change in temperature over that period, which is also reassuring. This project brought together a key group of researchers, government funders, international colleagues from the UK Met Office and also NIWA, and had an event and also subsequent activities looking at planning for the future of climate projections in Australia. And through discussions, we came up with recommendations for a staged approach, a minor update, which we're calling version 1.5, including updates to the content of the website, to make it more tailored to what people need, but also to give new content on area of interest. For example, what does the Paris Agreement target mean for Australia compared to if we broke it? And also working on some simpler, more intuitive ways to start using projections, including some of those narratives and storylines with, for scenarios for some people to map out what the future looks like. And also to build the groundwork for future success in the version 2, which would be kind of expected in the early to mid 2020s. A little bit more detail about that big update, which we might expect. The group agreed that it would naturally be based on the new set of climate models, CMIP6, and coordinated regional downscaling, that Cordex program, would need to investigate and use all the range of outputs and methods and modelling that is available. There's a lot of alternatives and different options nowadays. An increased focus on the socioeconomic pathways as well as the emissions of the future, and a big focus on some of the new things that are learned about some of these existing questions and unexpected questions. Our project also contributed to case studies, including case studies on assessing needs for the finance sector, growing mangoes in Northern Australia, assessing Gondwana rainforest habitat and the greater glider distribution. Mangoes temperature is very important in terms of their flowering and fruit production. And on the right here, you can see that rainfall projections in winter and low cloud level projections. And while temperature and rainfall are important, particularly that low cloud level projected to rise could actually be the most important factor and threat to that rainforest habitat. So what difference does our research make? Well, high quality national climate projections are an important asset for all nations, and all developed nations have them. And this project ensures that our stakeholders have access to those national climate change projections that are up to date, addressing current issues, scientifically credible, targeted, tailored, and have that legitimacy of our organisations, and provided through research products, case studies, knowledge brokering, website, tools, guidance, etc., and training as well, now and into the future. So I've been Michael Gross, and that's Project 2.6. For more information, please feel free to get in touch.